So our fourth performer tonight will be LaMoure, class of 2019. He'll be doing a dramatic performance of a piece many of you might know of. It's called The Black Cat by Edgar Poe.
Will has done very well this year. He was a semi-finalist at the George Mason Patriot Games and the Tournament of Champions, as well as a finalist at the Metro and District Tournaments this year. And he's the champion of the world-renowned Dallas Town Invitation.
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, LaMoure.
I neither expect nor solicit your belief. Mad indeed would I be to expect it in a case where my very senses reject their own evidence, and yet mad I am not. And very surely I do not dream. But tomorrow I die. Today, I would unburden my soul, so my immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly and succinctly and without comment, a series of mere household events. From my infancy, I was noted for my fondness of animals, and my parents indulged me with a great variety of domestic pets. We had birds, rabbits, goldfish, something of the like. I grew older and I married early, and my wife, observing my partiality for domestic animals, lost no opportunity in procuring those of a most agreeable kind. We had very many pets, but my favorite of them all was Pluto. He was a cat. He was large, beautiful, and intelligent to an astonishing degree, and almost entirely black. Now, Pluto was my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and well, he followed me just about wherever I went. An impulse is defined by the Oxford English Dictionary as a sudden, strong, and unreflective urge to act. It's a burning desire within, telling you to do something without giving it a second thought. Now, most people are able to overcome their impulses with the use of reason, good old-fashioned common sense. However, according to a report by the National Center for Biotechnological Information, people suffering from alcoholism were 68% more likely to engage in impulsive or erratic behavior, oftentimes leading to the harm of themselves or those around them. As will soon become clear, our narrator is suffering from this particular affliction and is in no place to be making his own decisions. This is not a story for the faint of heart, but I suppose you should expect nothing less. The Black Cat by Edgar Poe. Now, our friendship continued in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character took something of a turn for the worse. I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife, and at times even offered her personal violence, and at length even Pluto began to experience the effects of my anger. So, one night I returned home much intoxicated, and I noticed that the animal avoided my presence. So I just seized him, and in his fright at my anger, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. I reached into my waistcoat pocket. I took out a penknife. And I gouged one of his eyes out of the socket. The animal slowly recovered. Went about the house as usual, though he would flee in terror at my presence. And at first I was grieved by this evident dislike for me on the part of an animal which had once so loved me. And yet, as time went on, grief, weight, irritation, and as if to my final and irrevocable overthrow came the spirit of perverseness. So, one morning, cool blood, I seized the creature. I took him outside. Tied a noose about its neck. And I hung it to the limb of a tree. I hung it because I knew that it had loved me. And because I knew in doing what I had done to it, I had committed a sin which, if possible, to place my soul beyond the mercy of our most merciful and most terrible God. A few months later, I found myself half stupefied in a den of more than infamy, and I saw an object sitting on one of the hogsheads of gin. It was a cat. It was a black cat, almost as large as Pluto was, and resembled him in almost every respect. I reached out to touch him, and he stood up, and he purred loudly, and rubbed his head against my hand. I went to the landlord to make purchase of it, but well, he knew nothing of it. Made no claim to it. He'd never seen it before. I made like I was going to go home, and the animal made like it was going to follow me. I permitted it to do so. Every so often, I'd stoop down and I'd pat it on the head. I arrived home, and the animal domesticated itself almost immediately, much to the pleasure of my wife. And yet, as the night went on, I found a dislike to it arising within me. Now, this was just the opposite of what I had intended, and yet its evident fondness for myself rather disgusted and annoyed me. And eventually, this disgust and annoyance gave way to the bitterness of hatred, but a certain sense of shame. A remembrance of my former deed of cruelty prevented me from physically abusing it. But what added to my hatred of the beast was the discovery that I'd after brought it home. Like Pluto, it had been deprived of one of its eyes. This only seemed to endear it even further to my wife. So one afternoon, she accompanied me into the cellar on some household errand, and the cat, underfoot, and nearly threw me headlong. I grabbed an axe, and I aimed a blow at the creature, which would have proved instantly fatal. If not, the staying hand of my wife. I withdrew my arm from her grasp. And I buried the axe into her brain. There was a projection in the wall of the cellar. It had been built around an old fireplace, a false chimney, or what have you, but I knew I could displace the bricks. Place the corpse inside and wall it up as before, so that nobody could ever know. My next goal was to search for the creature which had been the cause of so much grief and suffering in my life, but I suppose in its fright, my anger, the animal had made itself scarce. The police arrived a few days later to make a rigorous investigation of the premises, and I permitted them to do so. Secure in the inscrutability of my concealment, I felt no embarrassment whatsoever. I walked to and fro, my heart beating slowly as that of one who slumbers in innocence. Gentlemen, please, I delight to have allayed your suspicions. But by the by, gentlemen, this is a very well-constructed house, a very finely constructed house. Take a look. One might say, gentlemen, one might say that these walls are solidly put together. And at that exact moment, I heard a cry. At first muffled and broken like that of a crying child, but it spiraled into one long, loud, continuous scream, and I searched in vain for the source before I realized it came from behind the projection wall of the cellar. The police had noticed as well, and they went to work on the wall, tearing it down brick by brick, and it fell readily. There stood the corpse atop its head. The beast. Its mouth outstretched in a continuous scream, its solitary eye of fire staring into my soul, its informing voice had consigned me to the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb.